Hi, I'm John Zimkus, and this is The City Show. Our first two guests are from one of the treasures of Lebanon, the Lebanon Theater Company. We have Abby Canterbrew Smith and Eric Smith. Welcome. You're both board members of the Lebanon Theater Company, and you're also married.
We are.
And I understand we were talking before we started recording that you both appeared in The Bridges of Madison County. And by luck, you played husband and wife.
We did.
Well, welcome. Now, we're going to be talking today about what's currently going to go on. And we have a new play coming up in about 2 or 3 weeks, correct?
Yes.
And what's its name?
It's called I Love You, You're Perfect, Now Change. It's a long title.
Now, I understand that this was a very, very popular off-Broadway musical. Mm-hmm. And when was it playing in New York?
Oh, gosh. It's originally written in the 80s, so it was supposed to be modern then. Mm-hmm. There's been a lot of ways to update it, but they don't use... We've had to update it by using cell phones and things like that. The original talks about like video dating. Mm-hmm. Do you remember that? So
yes.
Yeah, so we've had to like update it to like apps and things like that because our modern audiences aren't going to understand that quite as well.
Now, in this production, you are the director.
Yes.
But you're not performing.
I am performing.
Oh, you are?
I don't want to be. I don't want to be put out as the performer. I'd rather be the director.
Now, so. Eric, you are also
I'm in the show. Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm also helping to produce the show.
Okay.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun to play some of these roles. Abby was actually in this show probably 10 to 15 years ago, right after we got married. So I remember seeing the show then and really loving it. And even since then, I've always listened to a handful of the songs. So I've kind of really fallen in love with the different music in it. It's really funny, and it's just there's some really great scenes and great characters in it. Will
it have on the program Smith family production?
No, hopefully not. There are 4 other cast members in the show,
and they're fantastic.
They're wonderful.
Yeah.
Now, tell us what it's all about. We're talking about how long the title was, and it talks about several different things.
Yeah, so the show is about relationships, mostly dating relationships. There are some parents involved and things like that, but mostly it's dating relationships all the way up through marriage and then having kids and then what happens after your spouse dies. And it's kind of just runs the gamut of a romantic relationship, but seen through different scenarios with different characters, and all 6 people play all of the parts in about 20 scenes. So it's kind of a fun way to do it.
From one scene to another, are they the same characters or totally different?
Totally different.
Okay.
Yeah, so you'd have a different couple that's just starting out on their first date all the way to a different couple that's, re-finding love after they've lost a spouse.
Now, this, as performers, this gives you a chance to be several different people.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah. Well, it's also intimidating, isn't it?
Sometimes, but actors really like being able to be somebody else for a while. But it is because you want to have 2 very separate or 3 or 4 separate characters, right? You don't want to feel like you're playing the same person every time. And we don't want the audience to think that either. So we want to come in and make it's also a lot more comedic if we can over-exaggerate some of these characters. And then some of them are very real. There are definitely ones that are inflated, but there's also ones that you really fall in love with as far as like, they're lovely people.
Now, Eric, is there an attempt to physically change who you are, going from one vignette to the other?
Absolutely, yeah. So in some of the earlier scenes, as she was saying, it's kind of more focused on early relationships, dating. In the second half of the show, it kind of focuses on marriage relationships. And there's a character that I played towards the very end of the show that it's an elderly gentleman that is picking up a woman at a funeral. And so it's a funny scene, but it's also a very sweet and tender scene. And so there's a lot of physicality differences in that scene versus the ones that I play earlier on in the show.
How many different characters do you play, Eric?
I think I'm in 10 different scenes, 10 different characters throughout the show. They're all. I try to find some different accents for some of them, or just different physicalities, or kind of the way that I'm acting on stage. So it is a challenge to try to have it be, sufficiently different for each scene.
Well, you said 10, and I was shocked at that. I was expecting 5, 6, but 10. I mean,
Yeah. Some of them are pretty small roles, so,
Yeah.
so not all of them are huge. But every single role, no matter if I have a lot of lines in that scene or just one or two, I still try to build up a good backstory and try to understand who this person is, because theater is a lot more engaging when you're watching real people on stage and they're really fleshed out characters. They're not just someone that goes on stage and says a line and moves on. So
now, Abby, as the director of such it's a small cast, but it's actually, 10 different plays.
Yeah.
Do you sometimes find yourself saying, Evan, you're too much a Bob and scene vignette. I want you to be different for Tom, or something like that?
Yeah, so it's definitely helping actors to find that spot, but also a spot that it can be related to by the audience. So we don't want to go super crazy talk, but yeah, I think it's a lot of encouraging them to make fun choices, but also seeing that from an audience's point of view and just make sure they're relatable. But yeah, it's as he said, he plays some really small roles. If you have like 3 lines, you may not feel like that's an important thing to like really become someone else, but it really is, because as an audience, we want to buy into each scene as a completely separate entity. So.
No, we were talking before we started recording that this sort of vignette kind of thing is not necessarily new. Neil Simon did it to a lesser extent in Plaza Suite. I think there was 3, maybe 4 different vignettes, but the same 2 actors are portraying that. So it should be very interesting. Now, it's a musical, so what kind of musical accompaniment do you have?
That's a great question. This musical is made to be small, right? It's originally done with 4 actors, although we have 6, but it's only a band of 3. So we have a electric bass, we have a piano, and a violinist, and that's it. And they will be on stage. You can watch them as well as we go through our scenes. So
is it? Is there scenery, or do you? Is the with the 3-piece orchestra? Are people minimum scenery then?
Yeah, so we have a minimal set that's made of levels, and all of the pieces are brought in. So tables, chairs, couches, things like that. But the story is meant to not be muddied by a set. It's meant to be able to be played in all different ways, and a bunch of platforms gives us the ability to put a scene here and a scene over here, and the audience believes that those are 2 separate places. So.
Well, I was thinking of Bridges of Madison County, which the 2 of you were in, and many a time there are, refrigerators are moving and couches are coming.
I know.
And beds are coming.
it's more simple than that one, for sure.
Yes. We do everything with just a couch or a table, no walls. So your imagination has to fill in the blanks.
Now, as far as your background goes, you do have a theater background, don't you, Abby?
Yes.
And you took theater. Were you a theater major in college?
Yeah. So I went to Florida State. I know it's really far away, but I went to Florida State for theater. And actually, I focused in more technical theater and stage management. And I worked as a stage manager for a while and worked on cruise ships and things like that. And then when I met him, we kind of decided to settle down a little bit, and I became a theater teacher. And so I taught high school and middle school theater for over 10 years. And now we're here, and I'm getting to get back into directing and adults, because directing children is a whole different thing.
Yeah. Now, do you enjoy directing better than acting?
I think it depends on the show. In this case, I'm really enjoying the directing aspect because, like you said, I'm getting to direct 20 some odd different plays. So I get to decide that the feeling for this is going to be slower and this one is going to be very comedic. Whereas I don't have to like have a through line necessarily like you would if it was a play from scene to scene. This is very, this is insular. This is the one thing. And then we go to this one. So it gives me ability to be very creative, and then a set that has to tell a story with a couch, and that's it.
Yeah.
So that's very exciting.
Now, have you directed other productions for the Lebanon Theater Company?
Yeah, I directed Lend Me a Tenor. That was last year, 2 years ago. And then the musical Comedy Murders of 1940, which happened right before COVID hit. So.
Now, Eric, you married into the theater, is that correct?
I did. So I did a little theater when I was in high school, and then I went off in a different direction and got a degree in physics. And so Abby and I actually met doing a community theater production of Annie, and kind of happened from there. So, yeah.
Now, how many plays have you been in?
Not as many. I've done just a handful of shows here at Lebanon Theater Company. Most of the time I've been support staff for the family, so supporting her in going off and doing theater, and then taking care of our kids in the evenings so that she can kind of engage in that sort of thing. So our kids are getting older now, so I'm starting to get back into it and be involved.
Now, you have a day job in physics, don't you?
Yeah. So I work up at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. I'm work for the research lab there.
Now, how long have the two of you been with the Lebanon Theater Company?
I've been there for about 8 years.
8 years or so.
Acting and directing and serving on the board here and there. And he's more new to it. But again, like you said, he's been an audience member for 8 years.
Yeah.
So.
Now, when is the performances for the play?
So we open November 8th, and we're that whole weekend, so that's a Friday, and then the following Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And we run, the 2 weekends. Tickets are on sale now. You can get them on our website. You can also call Jay Mills, who's delightful to talk to on the phone, if you'd like to just call our number, and he'll reserve you some tickets as well. And season tickets are also on sale for our next season.
Now, the Friday and Saturday performances are what, 7:30, right?
7:30 for Friday and Saturday, and 2 o'clock?
2 o'clock.
For Sunday.
Now, Jay was here last year sometime. We had Brian Trainer and we had Kurt Percy. And Jay didn't want to sit on the couch. We had the couch then. But he was still talking off camera.
That sounds like Jay, yeah.
Yeah. Tell him this, tell him that. Now, how much are tickets?
So tickets are
22.
And and I'm not sure, what are our, can you tell them about the season tickets?
Yeah, so tickets for this show are $22, but we have season tickets on sale right now. So what we're doing is the people that currently have season tickets, it's open just for them because we want to give them an opportunity to get their same seats for next year. So if you're a season ticket holder, contact Jay Mills right away and make sure to reserve your seats. And that's so for the next season. And then on December 1st, the season tickets for next season are going to open up to the general public. If you don't already have season tickets, that's your opportunity to get season tickets at that point for the 2025 season. And there are going to be 5 shows in that season. So the season tickets for that is going to be $100 for all 5 of those shows.
Oh, that's a good deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, being I was thinking of this, off-Broadway can really be off-Broadway.
It sure can.
So how many people does the Lebanon Theater Company theater hold, do you know?
There's 110 seats in the house.
Now, for some off-Broadway plays, that's their seating capacity too, isn't it?
Yeah, that might even be big for some.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so especially like a little black box, you can have. But this show really lends itself to a small stage and a small space. We've actually moved our set up forward, so the actors will be very close.
Oh, that's neat.
Yeah. So if you're sitting in the front row, it'll be like you're part of the action.
Well, is there anything else we should tell let's talk about the new season.
Yeah.
Now, you're directing some of the new season too, aren't you?
I am. I'm directing one of the shows next season.
The first play will be in February, February to March, beginning of March. And it may be familiar to some of our viewers. And it's what?
Death Trap. It's directed by Michael Schumacher, who directed Rumors of this past season. And yeah, it's just like the movie. So if you're familiar with the movie, but it uses a few more actors than the movie does. But it's, a mystery comedy kind of thing. And then the next one is the Miss Firecracker contest. And that's the one I'm directing. It's about a it's set in rural Mississippi, and it's about a failed beauty queen, or wanted. She wants to be one, and we kind of take in a local pageant, and we kind of take a journey with her. And then we're doing Spelling Bee, the 25th annual Spelling Bee, which is a musical, and it's also a musical comedy. Really funny, where adults play children. And so, that's always a fun thing. And then we're doing M Story, which is written by a local playwright, and they are also going to be directing that show.
Oh, that's neat.
That'll be exciting. And then our last one is Forever Plaid.
Plaid Tidings.
Plaid Tidings, the Christmas show that we did 3 years ago.
2 years ago, I think.
It will be 3 when we get there.
But it's
but we're using the same cast. So if you came and saw that one and it got rave reviews. So if you want to be a little nostalgic, come back at Christmas time next year.
Oh, great. Well, thank you for being here. As I said, the Lebanon Theater Company is one of the treasures of our area. And you're great performers. You were fantastic in Bridges of Madison County.
Thank you.
I thoroughly enjoyed that. So the play again is called I Love You.
You're perfect.
Perfect. Now change.
Yes.
Okay. I remember reading it is everything you ever wanted to know about love, romance, marriage, in-laws, and it went on.
Your kids.
But we're afraid to admit, or something.
Yes. Yes. So it's definitely a good, fun time. You'll laugh. It's good. Yeah.
Oh, sounds great. Well, thanks for being with us.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
We'll be right back. Welcome back. We now have 2 guests from the Lebanon Police Department, Officer Brandon McGee and Officer Echo. Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you. So my name is Brandon McGee. I've been with the City of Lebanon Police Department for about 3.5 years, and this is K9 Echo. Echo, here.
Now, how long has Echo been your partner?
He has been my partner for about 5 months now. We got done mid to end of April with our training. So we've been on the road for about 5-ish months, coming up on 6.
No, what kind of dog is Echo?
So he is a German Shepherd. He comes from the Czech Republic. Like I said, he is about 2 years old, 2.5 we're kind of working on. He's trained in the language of Dutch, so he doesn't speak English. He speaks a little English for me, but that would be Echo.
Now, whenever I've seen other police dogs, although we often think of German Shepherds as police dogs,
Yes.
the dog is often a Belgian Malinois.
Yep. So the 2 common types in Ohio typically are Belgian Malinois and German Shepherds. The Belgian Malinois looks very similar to the Shepherds. They're a little bit shorter, a little bit smaller, but they're essentially the same dogs.
Now,
Echo.
there's no shortage of German Shepherds in the United States. So why did Echo have to come from Europe?
It just depends on where we get them from. So we go to a place called Shallow Creek Kennels in Sharpsville, Pennsylvania. They train roughly 500 police canines out of there a year. And the owner goes overseas every 8 weeks and buys dogs and brings them over. It's up to him. He buys something from the U.S., but he just happened to come from the Czech Republic.
Now, born in the Czech Republic, but understands Dutch.
Yes.
How did that take place?
So the kennel, from what we can tell, that I get very little information about his background from them, other than I know where he's from. As far as I know, just that's what the language that they used to train their dogs there.
Now, how old was he when he came to the United States?
He came to the United States at about 1.5 years. And then I partnered with him from there. Before I met him, he was in the U.S. for about 8 weeks, training at Shallow Creek and going through their training process.
Now, what kind of training do you have at Shallow Creek?
So it's a pretty large variety of training. It includes training, depends on which dog. So he's what's called as a dual purpose canine. So he does tracking work. So if somebody runs from us, I can give him a command. He will track that ground disturbance, and then eventually he will get the odor of what he's tracking through the ground disturbance, and then he will continue on with that. He also does areas. So if somebody runs off into the woods and I have a general idea of where they ran to, I can take him offline and give him a command, and he's going to go search that area until he finds it. He does article work there also. So if somebody were to throw a gun or run and throw something from us, I can take him offline again, give him a command, and he's going to run around that area and search that area by smell until he finds something that's got fresh human odor on it. And then when he finds something, he's going to lay down to indicate to me that he has found something. He's going to lay down on top of it.
Did he learn those skills at Shadow Creek?
A little bit. They fine-tuned his skills there, but most of it came from the kennels overseas. Then he also does narcotic work. So he is trained to detect heroin, cocaine, and methamphetamine, and all the derivatives of it. So like fentanyl and stuff along those lines too.
Now, I mentioned before we started recording that I often heard that, don't pet the service dog because it has a job to do. But Echo is different in that aspect.
He's still a service dog, but I've liked to have him out in the public so much. We go to all the city events. People are more than welcome to come up and pet him. Just let me know ahead of time so I can make sure that he's okay. Make sure he doesn't have any injuries from work, because when we're in the woods tracking or working, he gets poked, stabbed by a stick or something. He might have sores. I don't want you to hit those sores or anything like that. But always more than welcome to come up and talk to me, and I'll get him out so people can pet him.
Now, is this your first canine partner?
Yes, so he is my first canine partner. There's quite the process for it. The City of Lebanon Police Department has us submit an email. In that email or written letter of interest, after it's been posted by the department, you have to kind of list off some of your qualifications or what you believe your qualifications are. And that can be including from like families willing to help you to trainings that you've been to, and a lot of it centers around drug detection. So like different schools and certificates that you've obtained in different drug aspects.
How many canine officers are there in Warren County? Do you know what communities have them?
So off the top of my head, Warren County Sheriff's Office has 2 that are dual purpose canines, and they're putting their 3rd canine on right now. He is going through Middletown School. He's putting on a school. Hamilton Township has 1. Mason, I believe, has 2. There's probably around a dozen or so, maybe a little bit less. Franklin has 2. So.
And you said Echo is dual.
Yes, he is
trained.
a dual purpose canine compared to a single purpose, which would be like a narcotics only canine.
Now, what's a typical day for you and Echo?
Kind of, we have 2 different typical days, the days that we work and the days that we don't. So right now we are currently on day shifts. So we start our morning off at 4 a.m., get him up, feed him, let him go out, go to the bathroom. I start getting ready for work. We typically get into the city around 5:15 in the morning, get into the PD, go up to our shift change. From there, it just kind of depends on, what our calls look like. We try to go to the park several times throughout the day just for bathroom breaks. The city's given me access to a couple buildings that they own, so we also do random trainings throughout the day if it's narcotic searches or if we're going out to a park to do a training track that I lay for them. So just kind of depends on the day. Our days off, we get up a little bit later. We get up at 6 a.m., feed him then. I typically take my son to school, get back, kind of hang out with him. He has access in the downstairs of my house. So he has a basement, and then he has access to the outdoor yard. So we do that. We typically go for a walk once my son gets back from school because he loves Echo. I have a 2-year-old, so he runs around, and most mornings, the first thing out of his mouth is, "I see Echo." So.
How many days a week are you 2 on active duty?
It just depends, Echo.
Hi, Echo.
It just depends. right now. So we are on a bi-weekly pay period. So 1 week consists of Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. The other week consists of just Wednesday and Thursday. So it just kind of depends, but
Now, prior to being partnered with Echo, were you on a normal patrol?
yep. So I was just a regular road officer before him.
So this is a major difference for you too.
Yes, it is a huge difference. Having not only do I have things moving around in my car throughout the day that's kind of like, hey, there's something back there. It's not a person. It's him. But just having that responsibility with him, a lot more community engagement involved with him, a lot more going into other communities that need his abilities. So kind of widen your horizon and just in general, the people that you meet.
Now, your vehicle has to be different too, right?
Yes. So my vehicle currently has a kennel in one side of it for him, and then a passenger compartment on the other side. It is outfitted with a special heat sensing technology. So it reads the temperature in my car at all the times. I get a text message and a phone call if it goes over a certain degree, or if it goes under a certain degree. It's also set to call 911 and my sergeant and a captain as well, just so that we are being aware of what's going on. If it does hit that degree, it drops the windows and turns the fans on for him, and then sets off my siren as well.
Wow.
And lights. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Pretty cool technology for him.
Now, what kind of calls have you two been on?
We've been on a whole bunch of different types of calls. We've been on calls where hey, there's a guy we believe is a felon hiding in this part of the woods. So we've done online area searches. We've done track over in like Middletown and stuff. We've done vehicle sniffs all over. So it's a little bit of everything.
Now, you mentioned Middletown. Do you sometimes help neighboring departments?
Yeah, so we help neighboring departments a fair bit, actually. Even if that neighboring department does have a canine and they might not be on, they will call us, or vice versa. If I'm off and we need a dog, a neighboring agency might come and help them. So kind of a group effort amongst the canines to help each other out.
Now, you said Echo is about 2.5, and he's been on duty for about, what, 3-4 months now?
He's been on duty for about 5 months now.
Okay. How long will his general service last?
His general service will last typically 8 to 9 years, so he'll be retired about 10 to 11.
Well, that's to tell you the truth, that's longer than I expected. That's a good long time.
I'll say that's definitely a majority of his lifespan,
Yeah.
most likely.
Yeah. Now, have you gone to community events you've sat with him already?
Yeah, so we've been to every third Friday this year, besides for one. We just did the Oktoberfest this weekend. I typically have him out during those times, so people are always welcome to come up and see him. I stop out at different parks throughout the summer when there's kids out playing, and they get to meet him and stuff. So it just depends on what's going on.
Now, your training with Echo in Pennsylvania was what, 6 weeks?
Yes, it was 6 weeks. Over in Pennsylvania, we considered Monday to Friday training for them. So it was an interesting experience. There was about 22 other dogs in my class, and it included people from all over the United States, from Ohio to California to Colorado.
So it's like military basic training, right?
To a degree, not quite as intense by any means, but it's an interesting class, and you definitely learn a lot.
Now, how long did it take you to have a relationship with Echo?
Honestly, we started the relationship pretty early, but the relationship really blossomed once we came back home from the training, because it was more dogs, and this is what we're doing each day. And I got to spend time with him actually and get to know him, and he got to do the vice versa and figure out like, who is this random guy that I'm now with. So I would say 2 to 3 weeks after getting into school, we really became bonded.
Now, did you first meet him in Pennsylvania?
Yep. So Sergeant Haller and I, he was a prior canine handler, went to Sharpsville a couple weeks before my school started and did an observation of several dogs. And we ended up picking Canine Echo, and then we went back. And a couple weeks later, I went up by myself.
So you got a chance to actually select Echo.
Yes. So they showed us 4 other dogs. They kind of had a general idea of what we were looking for before based on our previous dogs that we had gotten from them. And we went through and watched them do like how they searched buildings, how they played, what their drives were like. And then we ended up selecting Echo, whose name was not Echo at the time. It was Oompa. So
Dutch or Czech?
I'm not sure. It was Oompa.
So did you name him Echo?
Yes. So I came home, showed a picture to my fiance, said, "This is the dog," and we started narrowing down names. And then I took some of the names that we had narrowed it down to, took it to the captains, and the captains picked out a couple names they liked, and then we took it to the chief and said, "This is the one that we'd like." And
does he respond to Echo now?
yes, he absolutely responds to Echo. If I'm feeling a little interesting and want to mess with him, he will still respond to Oompa too. Sometimes he gets a little head turn, but it's mainly Echo.
Now, being trained in Europe, and you said being trained in Dutch, how many Dutch commands does he know?
He knows mainly all Dutch commands. Very few English commands, and I had to learn those commands. That was part of our training. I got a little side shot of Dutch.
Well, now there you are in Pennsylvania, and there's officers from all over the country with their dogs. Are they all in Dutch, or are some of them in German?
Some of them are in German, some of them are in French. It just, again, depended on where the owner of Shallow Creek had bought the dog from and the kennel that it came from. So some of them knew French, some of them knew German.
Does Echo have any personality quirks that you find interesting, or?
He is very friendly, not necessarily interesting, but he is a very friendly dog. He's very curious. And when you think of a police canine, you think of this dog that's going to be fearless and go through everything. Yeah. He's very cautious when he approaches stuff. If we go to something that he's never seen before, he kind of kneels down a little bit, approaches it real slowly, analyzes it, which is awesome.
Yes, well, that's what you want an officer to do.
Yep.
Analyze the situation. Well, Brandon, thanks so much for bringing your partner Echo. And hopefully you'll come back some other time.
Absolutely. Thank you for having us on.
Our
Echo,
pleasure.
Here.
Echo, did you have a good time on the City Show?
Gil Blau. Gil Blau. Echo. Gil Blau. Gil Blau. Off. Off. Free.
No, that brings me to another question. His incentive is to get his toy, isn't it?
Yes, that is the only thing in the world he wants is that toy. That's what he lives for, is that toy. Originally, it was a tennis ball, but we switched him over to that's just a piece of blast hose tube because it's a little bit safer if I'm playing with him like on the side of the road from sniffing a vehicle. It's not going to bounce out into traffic or anything. And he's not going to try to go after it. That's just going to fall dead on the road.
Well, Officer McGee, thank you so very much. And thank you, Echo. And as I said, I hope to see you guys again sometime here on the City Show.
Absolutely. Thank you.
You take care now, and we'll see you around town.